The Rubik's Cube world record has a problem, and there is no going back to fix it. On July 19th, 2015, Feliks Zemdegs, at the absolute peak of the most dominant run in speedcubing history, won the world championship over second in the world Mats Valk by the largest margin we have still to this day ever seen. But that wasn't even the most interesting thing that happened in that head-to-head final between them, because you see Solve 1 saw Mats with an 8 and Feliks with a 7, and with the momentum already in Feliks' favor, Solve 2 would go on to become one of the most strangely forgotten missed opportunities in speedcubing history. Another 8 here from Mats gave Feliks a huge chance to pull away on Solve 2, and he did, but in maybe the most tragic way possible. Though this solve was just 0.4 seconds off of the world record in the World Championship final, Feliks knew something in that moment. Something that, even though he was well on his way to becoming the first ever two-time world champion, definitely messed with his head for a long period of time after this. Because this solve wasn't just good, it was designed to be a world record. At 3.8 seconds in, Feliks' cube looked like this. Sub 4 pace to get to this point in 2015 just did not exist. So when he then sees this, his mind had to be going crazy because from here, the cube is just 8 moves away from being solved. But at this exact moment, on world record pace, in the World Championship final, Feliks did 21 moves. Not because he didn't know the 8-move solution, he did and had used it in solves before this, but unknowingly, by costing himself the world's first sub 5, Feliks had just predicted the exact problem with the Rubik's Cube world record 10 years later. The last time we saw it broken, when Max Park put down this 3.13 in 2023, his solve quickly became one of the most iconic of all time. The world record always comes with an unthinkable solve and an even more unhinged reaction. But without anyone questioning it, we are officially entering a very weird era for the future of the world record. As of an 11-year-old becoming this good, and as of 2 weeks ago, a 7-year-old coming up to rival him for the world #1 spot wasn't already weird enough. The way this record is going to work for the foreseeable future has changed entirely over the last 6 months in particular. You see, if you go back and look at the last 6 world records, you'll notice that they all have something in common. For the last 25 years, the most popular method to solve the cube has always been Cipher. And the last 6 world records were all broken using it. But furthermore, every single one of these 6 solves featured a PLL skip, something that has a 1.4% chance of happening. This has always been the consensus, that you need a really good start to your solve, and to that exact skip at the end to get the world record. But it turns out, we are actually now moving away from that happening by eliminating the very thing that makes the world record possible. What these last 6 months especially have proven is that the fact that Max's 3.13 hasn't been broken by now is kind of a miracle. 3.13 has been broken an uncountable amount of times unofficially, and current #1 in the world Yihang Wang solving style is quite literally the perfect storm for a world record. To put just how overdue the world record actually is into perspective, we have now seen a grand total of 74 3-second solves done officially, 87% of which were done using CFOP. But the other 13% are responsible for what makes the future of the world record from 2025 onwards very odd to say the least. You see, when we saw the narrative of Yihang's absolute dominance change earlier this month, as 7-year-old Xuan Gung is now officially getting scarily close to Yihang for the #1 in the world spot, we saw the future we all knew was coming. At the very end of the solve, Xuan always sacrifices turn speed for efficiency, whilst Yihang sacrifices efficiency for turn speed, a concept that's always been accepted in speedcubing because it simply has to work one way or the other. Xuan has to stop to figure out which of a combined 800 algorithms that he knows to use during the solve, making him more efficient, but making the sacrifice of having less of a constant flow, whilst Yihang only has to figure out which of 72 algorithms to use, making his solves almost completely pauseless. Because here's the thing, at this point the world record pretty much has to be a pauseless solve. If you go back and look at any of the last 10 world records, the only pause you'll see is the solver trying to convince themselves of what they just did afterwards. Xuan's solving style revolves around the fact that he will always pause at a situation like the one Feliks had in the 2015 World Championship. Someone like Yihang would probably do the 21-move solution, while Xuan would always do the 8-move solution Feliks missed. On average, this does make Xuan's final step faster than anyone else's in the world, but it's also his biggest enemy. The new meta Xuan has pushed to the point where it's become the only method to ever overtake CFOP comes with a trade-off we didn't expect, causing us to now be moving further away from the world record than we ever have before. In our relentless pursuit of perfection, we are erasing the very thing that makes greatness possible. There is a fundamental trade-off that everyone acknowledges where as consistency increases, variance decreases. The whole reason the ZB method is becoming the meta is because by learning 800 algorithms instead of just the base 72, you gain control. There are a ton of cases, but you are now familiar with every single possible situation you'll ever come across in the final step of the solve. It is the ultimate option select in speedcubing, which basically means that we can use it to cover all of the different outcomes that may happen on a given solve, drastically lowering the chance of failure, but at the same time, drastically lowering the chance of pulling off a world record level solve. By using the ZB method, you reduce the risk that you get yourself into abnormally bad situations, as well as abnormally good situations. It lends to such a consistent peak as seen in Timon Koloshinsky and Shwani Gung's insanely consistent results, that we move away from the very thing that makes the world record possible. It all starts to click when you realize that the 1.4% odds I talked about earlier for a PLL skip with CFOP, the main piece needed for a world record, turn into 0.05% odds for any kind of a skip with the ZB method. The only viable way to get lucky using ZB is to get a case out of the hundreds of ZBLLs that is both insanely fast and easy to tell apart from the others, like the one that Feliks got. And even then, you aren't guaranteed anything crazy. The fastest time we've ever seen by a ZB method user is Shwani Gung's 3.49. And in order for someone who uses the ZB method to get a solve faster than 3.13, the number of things that have to go right is significantly higher than if you were to use CFOP. But most importantly, as the highest level of competitive cubing starts to lean more and more towards the side of ZB, we're going to see an extremely weird dynamic where the world rankings will probably be mostly ZB method users, but the world record single will be held by someone who uses CFOP and capitalizes on that 1.4% chance. We've traded the unpredictable for the predictable, inadvertently losing the very thing it takes to get the Rubik's Cube world record: luck. By striving for absolute control, we lose the magic of the unexpected. Maybe Feliks could have gotten the world record, but maybe pausing to realize that he had a chance to get the world record would have lost him the world record. After all, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but maybe by preparing too much, we've taken away from that opportunity. Maybe in the pursuit of absolute perfection, we miss out on the very imperfections that make the best moments, the ones we never quite saw coming. Yes! Yes! You know what I did see coming? You pressing the subscribe button. It's right there below the video. I just felt like a philosopher today. If you want more of that, you know what to do. Because subscribing to me helps me a lot more than it hurts you. That was a bar right there. Speaking of bars, feds tried to put me behind bars the other day. And they basically said, do you have any last words to the outside world before we throw you in here? And I said, just let them all know that a 6-year-old is in fact faster than them. Anyway, yeah. Besides that, that's about it. See ya.